Welcome to the Property Couch, where each week you get to listen to two of Australia's leading property experts as they share with you the insider's guide to property investing.
All right, folks, you're on the Property Couch, your insider's guide to property investing. I'm Bryce Holdaway, co-host of Location Australia on Foxtel's Lifestyle Channel. He's Ben Kingsley, the chair of the Property Investment Professionals of Australia, the 2014 and 15 Property Investment Advisor of the Year, mate. Hello.
G'day, buddy.
How are you?
Another week.
We're still in this summer series, which is always good.
Fantastic.
The thing I love about Melbourne, and I'm a Perth boy, is just the fact that it's just daytime until 10 o'clock at night. You go to Brisbane, there's no twilight. You know, as soon as it gets over that hinterland, it's gone.
That's it.
But here in Melbourne,
4 a.m. you can go for a run in Brisbane and the sun's coming up.
Oh, yeah, that's the flip side of it. But, mate, I think a few of our listeners will start to be getting a bit nervous at this point, I would have thought, given the fact that over summer we probably haven't done as much sport banter as we do during winter.
No.
But
the
footy starts.
It's not far away. Not far away. So that's all good.
I know.
But let's get in it. What are we doing today?
We're going to do questions.
Beautiful.
We've been inundated with questions is probably the understatement, which is fantastic.
Yeah, love them.
Because this podcast is all about helping people on the ground buying investment properties and building their portfolio.
And not making dumb decisions.
Not, mate. If we go back to rewind number one, tone that down a bit.
It's stupid, dumb, silly, what all of the above.
Let me kick it off.
Okay.
Peter, question on Facebook. Good place to get us questions. Loved reading the book. Quick question. In your Money Smarts section, you discuss using your credit card for fixed expenditure. Does that include groceries? Assuming groceries doesn't come under lifestyle. That seems to provide a variable. Do you think that it is still best? I want to adopt your setup, but worry about using a credit card, considering we don't have one currently. Thoughts?
Yep, so it actually does come under lifestyle spending. So, yep, we need food to operate, but there is some discretionary nature in the type of groceries that we buy. So if you think, and for those listeners who are new to this concept, effectively what we would do is a credit card covers all of those fixed costs. So that's where we get the money sitting there and it rolls out. So the 55-day interest-free period, we've got that money sitting in our offset. So we're saving on our interest on our mortgage and we're getting the banks to help fund that. But the secondary card is the debit card, the Visa debit card. And that card is working as a control mechanism so we don't overspend. So it's like getting a weekly wage allocation and then making sure that works. So when you do your budgets and you work out that I've got $640 a week to spend and groceries is $180 or $200 of that, that's sort of how you work it. So the answer to that is it wouldn't be on the credit card, it would be on the Visa debit card.
Very good point, Ben. I've seen a lot of clients who've come into our business who they're quite a little bit embarrassed by the fact that their credit card bill is so big. I've seen $70,000, $80,000. I've even seen six-figure credit cards.
Wow.
So the point of that is if there's any form of discretion whatsoever and you are vulnerable to credit, you wouldn't put it on the credit card. So the system that we put in the Money Smarts is largely about anything that you've got where there's no discretion. If Telstra gives you a bill, a mobile phone bill for $110 a month, you're not going to flick them a tip and give them $130. You're going to pay $100. In fact, if it's $110.20, you will pay $100.20. So the credit card should never have anything with discretion. And that was actually when I first adopted the Money Smarts, Ben. That was probably the best little tweak that we did, my wife and I did, because it's, you know, when you, and you talk about this all the time, you know, when you go down to IGA, you go down to Coles, you go down to Woolies and it's $17 here, and then you pop in the next day and it's $12 there, and then you pop in the next day it's $21. That's where money runs away. And if you do what you talked about in terms of putting it into your lifestyle account through your debit card, I always say you don't unconsciously overspend anymore. You can consciously overspend, but you don't unconsciously overspend. So
yeah, we've heard concepts before about pay yourself first, and I really love that concept in the sense that pay yourself first means that if you're actually trying to save more money, you go to your HR department and you can potentially put a savings amount if you don't already have an offset, because if you have an offset, it's got to go there. But if you don't have an offset, you effectively are paying it into an account that you shouldn't be able to get your hands on. So that's that concept of putting that money away and then the rest you've got to spend. So the Money Smarts is about that idea. There's one small one, and that's petrol. So because petrol is an essential need. So, and truly, I mean, if you can't get to and from work, then that's the only thing that we do still put on the credit card. But everything else under our Money Smart system goes on to that debit card. So, I always say pay yourself on Thursday, so the money rolls into that account. You've got your piece of plastic that you can then, and if come Monday and you got $50 and payday is not until Thursday, that's the point. That's the magic where you really make that $50 work. You open the pantry cupboards up. You actually make that money work, as opposed to I'll quickly just go and do another shop. I'll just run down there, because that's where you get that slippage. So for us, it's really about getting into that mindset of maximising the use of that money so it's sitting in the offset so we can continue to build wealth.
Look after the pennies and the pounds take care of themselves. If you're wondering why a property investment podcast is talking about the minutiae of money flow, it's because it's incredibly critical. If you can trap cash flow at the end of the month and use that and put that towards leveraging to buy more assets, that's going to have a huge compounding effect.
Yeah, or pay down debt and all of a sudden you've got the passive income to live off.
Very good. Thank you, Peter. Great question. Hopefully that helped you out. If it didn't, let us know on the Facebook page and we will cover that in the future.
Okay, so the next question's from Andrew P. Hey guys, thanks for all the valuable information so far. I have a question in regards to the fees and costs of property portfolio and buyer's agent services. I'm a first-time investor with limited funds for my purchase, and I'm trying to get an idea whether or not I could, one, even afford the above services, or two, whether these funds would be better spent contributing to a larger deposit. Can buyers with similar budgets, i.e. sub 400,000, still maximise capital growth and rental yields using qualified property advisors and investment savvy buyers agents? Cheers, Bryce.
That's a really good question. I think in the do-it-yourself environment, it's often whether or not people can get professional help or not is variable for them. But I think if you're serious about it, you've got to see buyer's agency fees. And this is self-serving, so I get I'm a buyer's agent, but it needs to be seen in the same context as stamp duty. You can't avoid it. And if you want to buy an investment property, you've got to pay stamp duty. And if you're serious about getting good outcomes, because the question's largely around we want better outcomes rather than just getting into the market.
Yep.
And I get that some buyers agents charge a percentage of purchase price. We've decided to go flat fee, so people have some certainty. But I get that it can be a considerable investment. But it's not really about how much does it cost when I get in. It's about, I always say, I think it's a Buffett comment, price is what you pay, value is what you get.
Mm-hmm.
And I get that it's a fair investment early on. But if you're getting a better than average outcome, or to be honest, some of the results that we see investors get are woefully under average. So even if it just means you got average, you'd be miles in front as that compounding curve happens. So, I mean, his first question is, can I even afford the above services? If you can't, and there is an opportunity to maybe use mum and dad's as guarantor or some equity to help you do that, I think it's money well spent. And B was, whether those funds would be better spent on a larger deposit. Well, in some cases, yes, but if you buy the wrong asset, well, you've cut off your nose to spite your face.
Yeah, look, I'm the same, Bryce, in terms of to start with, a great property investment advisor should do the money analysis first. That's the most important part. So, they'll be talking to you about borrowing power. They'll be talking to you about how much cash flow you've got, how much savings you can make. So once that's understood, then you can get a good understanding of not just looking at what your traditional borrowing power is and think, I've just got to maximise that. Because you can still get great investment properties. You ready for this? Great investment properties for still around $200,000. Now that might sound, we're in Australia. Where in Australia would we be able to buy those? But in reality, last year we bought quite a few of them.
We did.
And we'll continue to buy them appropriately for the right types of clients. So my view is, when you're talking about value, when you're talking about, sort of how do you get value, the question is, you want to increase your probability of getting a better result. And that's the value that's put on the table by a professional advisor. They should hopefully increase the probability of you getting a better result. And so if that increases that probability quite high, then their value is there. Now, unfortunately, there's no guarantees in what we do, but the reality is if they can justify the means, then the end result sort of takes care of itself.
Agreed. Yeah, very good point. The last part, and I think Ben touched on it quite well, can buyers with smaller budgets, sub 400k is still maximise growth. To be honest, in 2015, we bought many properties. I wouldn't know the number off the top of my head, but scores of properties sub 400 in Melbourne, in Brisbane, and in other locations around the country as well.
So, and just that last point on fees, you might see some professionals who say they don't charge for their fees. In other words, they don't charge you. They make their money through commissions from the builder developer, or they say that their property advice services fee. There's no such thing as a free lunch. Okay, so you need to understand where the agenda is in terms of that. Now, if they're very transparent in what those fees are and they can articulate the reasons why it is what it is, and they're still giving you a broad market to look at, well, maybe you consider them.
Yeah, good point. The other thing to think about too is traditionally, if you talked about generation types, I've said this before over the dinner table at my house. My dad's born pre-baby boomer. He's born in the depths, in the shadows of the Great Depression in 1939. My mum's a baby boomer. I'm Gen X. My wife's Gen Y. Well, she's on the cusp. So there's 4 generation types across, the Sunday roast. And what I'd say is, if you talk to a baby boomer or even my dad, they would never consider, an apartment or a flat as an investment. But you talk to a Gen Y, the idea of buying a 1-bedroom apartment in the heart of Sydney, the heart of Melbourne, heart of Brisbane, that's got uber lifestyle components to it, might be a great place to start. So I would say to Andrew, just think about what mindset or paradigms you might be operating in now, and whether or not you've boxed yourself into a corner, because there are really good options as investment grade in an investment grade suburb under 400,000. And
if I can just add one final bit, when you're taking advice, don't take advice from Barry at the barbecue or Dad who hasn't been able to get successful at what he's done. Take your advice from people who have proven performers, who have done, practice what they've preached and are successful at what they do. So many people, when they see the figures for what a buyer's agent costs, real estate agents, they say, well, 2%, I'm selling it. It seems to be the accepted norm. They don't really, they might haggle a little bit on price. Well, really a buyer's agent's 2% and they're working on behalf of the buyer. So it's almost like, but everyone feels that, it's bricks and mortar, I know property. Well, what would you go and pay someone for that service? And property investment advice is financial advice, and still only 20% of people seek out financial planners for financial. But isn't it amazing the correlation between the real wealthy people? They've all got wealth advisors. Every one of the 100% of wealthy families around Australia have a team of advisors, and then there's mum and dad in the back streets who don't use one, and where are they at? So again, it's about getting quality, not just any old Tom, Dick or Harry, but that's when you do your research and due diligence.
Agreed. Very good. All right, we've got one here from Christian, again on Facebook. Hi Ben, I don't think I exist here, Ben, but
right.
Hi Ben, what are your thoughts on using equity and or line of credit to fund the negative cash flow on high growth properties? I know that a couple of other high profile people in the marketplace, and I haven't said their names, but are advocates of this strategy. Your thoughts? Would love to hear your talk about this on the podcast.
I suppose it's been addressed to me because I probably do the cash flow modelling mostly in the property strategy stuff, and that's effectively what it is.
Mate, all of our listeners know you're the brains in this duo, so that's why
that's rubbish.
That's why it's been addressed to you.
Absolute rubbish. So the point being here is cash flow is everything when it comes to running a business that's operating in a negative cash flow environment. Let me say that again. It's really important to understand if you're going to run a business at a negative cash flow, it cannot be sustained longer term. So I would want to see a lot of things to be lined up before I'd be advocating this type of strategy. As an initial starting point, you wouldn't do it, but if you've built up significant equity, and you can trade through, say, having a baby going down to one income, which is usually when we advocate for that. So if we've got a couple and they've got one child or even about to start a family and they've got really strong incomes and the wife is very confident that she's going to go back to work and there's a real nice buffer, the reality is yes, I would certainly be advocating that, because if you can buy a capital growth asset in a blue chip location, a scarce asset, that is going to be worth a significant amount of money longer term, and also the rents you're going to get on that property over time are going to be substantial. So that's one thing. The other thing is risk profile. So if you're very, very low risk, and you don't understand what we're talking about, then no, it's not for you. So I would get that right. I would get those cash flow models. I'd make sure that we were literally measuring forward forecasts on cash flow. And then if all of that looks good and you've got conservative assumptions inside your models, and you're going to be, say, going backwards. As an example, I'll use my personal example. Jane and I were about to have our second child, and we were losing Jane's income, and we'd worked out that we were going to go backwards around $40,000 for that time period based on the debt that we held and the properties that we were holding at the time. So I had a line of credit there worth $100,000. That's our buffer. And so that gave me confidence not to sell one of the investment properties. So we just looked at each other and said, we can get through this. That's no problem. We'll hold that investment property. And yes, we did go backwards, only around 30,000 during that period of time. And we were able to keep going. And now Jane's back at work. The portfolio is as strong as it's ever been. And we've moved forward.
Well, that's a significant piece of gold of what you told there, because that's what's going through people's minds all the time. They don't want to be in a position of weakness when they need to make the decisions. You know, single incomes,
great point,
babies on the point, in their life, they're really tired and they're worried about money. What you said is significant.
Yeah, look, it is. I mean, and so many people we see who don't get advice have gone and said, oh, well, we sold that property because we're about to start a family. Oh, really? I mean, well, you see it in my book. I talk about my biggest mistake. You know, I sold a property because I got bad advice on, and that property.
You don't like four-letter words in here, mate. Sold.
Yeah, that was a $500,000 mistake. So, there you go. And counting, because, if I still own that property, it'd still be growing in value.
You articulated when we talked about this the other day really well about the psychology that comes from being money going backwards. Do you want to embellish on that?
Yeah, look, it is. I mean, unfortunately, it happens on the share market as well. When people see the market's tanking or jittery and it's crashing, they actually get out at the bottom. So again, it's about if you actually understand how you run your household and what the long-term strategy is, then ultimately you should be okay, because there could be a really interesting period of time where we see flat growth. We've been very fortunate in our bigger cities that growth has been really good, low interest rates, blah, 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 asset appreciation. But in reality, what we're talking about here is there could be a 5-year period where the property hasn't been going in value, and rent should normally grow, so that will hopefully be making sure that the shortfall is less. But there are other levers we can pull. But those people who just run out of time mentally and then convince themselves this isn't going to go anywhere, and then they sell, and then 18 months later, boom, it hits, and these things go up 30% overnight, and they sit back and they go, oh my God, we were so silly. So that's where, again, running it by your accountability partner, which should be your advisor, whether it be your mortgage broker, your property investment advisor, really important stuff. These are big decisions that are going to have an impact in the future.
Big takeaway from what you said is you've got to have nerves of steel. So in my view, I've seen a lot of, they are high profile people. They've got books in the marketplace. I think the point is they actually do work. I mean, we're not going to sit here and run them down, because there's lots of ways to skin the cat in our game. But we think the strategy that we adopt is conservative, because it's about debt reduction. It's about proactively using cash flow to manage your household situation so that you don't end up having to hold an empire of properties. Now, some people who are listening to this podcast want to hold an empire of properties, and that's totally fine. But for a lot of people in the bell curve, they just want to provide, they want to buy back their time, and they want to buy back experiences when they no longer have to work. And I think that's an important point. So for the bell curve, most people just want to get an outcome, which is a passive income, not have to work anymore. But I caught up with a guy for a coffee last week, and mate, he works for the Australian Federal Police, and he loves property. I mean, it's in his blood. He wants to talk about it all the time, and he wants to keep buying more and get him. That's cool. There's lots of people out there, and I'm sure got heaps listening.
Absolutely.
But generally speaking, for most people, it's a conservative approach that we adopt. So the other thing to keep in mind is that that constant need for increasing growth and using finance to service debt relies on you being able to get that finance. And if you're a person who I always think that there's the front door, the side door, and the back door when it comes to getting money from the bank. And the front door is what everyone gets. The side door is what you have through some relationships. And as you start to get a really big fish, you can go through the back door.
Yeah, great.
And some of these guys are really, really big fish. Yep. And so the banks sit down and they look at their case on a business case rather than a standard residential lending case, and they can get some of this income.
Yeah, they move a little bit outside policy, but they say this is a good client, good stable.
They're a gold brick.
Yep, exactly right. So they want that business. It could be $1 million plus lending across the portfolio, and they'll do everything to try and win that customer over.
So in I guess in summary there, Christian, it works. You can get some roadblocks on finance. I don't think it's for everyone, but I think the guys who you're referring to, I know them. They're doing really well, and their strategy actually does work. So it's really, as Ben said at the top of the question, it's whatever your risk profile is. If you feel aggressive, you want to build a big portfolio, and you're quite comfortable with having periods of time where your debt's increasing at a faster rate than your equity in some points, that's fine. Otherwise, you probably want to take a more conservative approach.
Beautiful. I think that's a really great way of describing it, and we adopt it as part of the strategies we use for our business. Okay, well, how are we going for time? Really good. So let's keep moving. This is a value add question around property, and it comes from Heath J. Hi guys, love the show, and I'm currently up to the buyer's decision quadrant in the book and really enjoying it. My question to you is this. I have recently renovated investment property in Brisbane that is a 3-bedroom by 2-bathroom by 2-car. We have built in a 4th bedroom downstairs in the existing utility room, legal height, ventilation, windows and power supply, etc. Currently, I'm speaking to a few builders certificate and engineers to assess whether or not I can get the 4th bedroom certified through council. It's looking like the certification will cost me around $5,000, and the difference between the median for a 3-bedroom versus a 4-bedroom in the area is around $60,000. Would you think moving forward with this would be feasible? And if so, when issued with a certificate through the Brisbane Council, is this something that I would submit to the valuer when they were doing an inspection?
Yes, $5,000 to get 60. That sounds like
a great return on
brainer. I think the key to the question is whether he can get it certified, because a lot of those properties in Brisbane, you often see them advertised without. They've got this space underneath, but they haven't advertised it as a bedroom. But for me, the quickest ways to add value is improve the wet areas or add a bedroom, and that's effectively what this question's done. So for $5,000 to get 60, to me, subject to all the other technicalities stacking up, is a no-brainer.
I mean, I would even reach out to the council and set up an appointment, an official appointment with one of the town planners there. Take all your information with you along, so so before you sort of paid a lot of money, you don't want to burn that. If they're giving you fairly good indications, and when you talk to council, it's like talking to a brick wall. We all know that they can't really give you, but the flavour, the response, if it's quite positive, then the reality is, it sounds like an absolutely smart decision to do. And of course, when you are putting your submission in, you would definitely want to make sure that you let the application on the bank, you know that the property is now a 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom, 2-car, as opposed to a 3-bedroom. So they're coming out to value it that way. So I would, and that's an instant equity harvest. So from a value add point of view, Heath, I think it's very smart, and I wish you all the best. And keep us posted in terms of how that comes about, how the outcome on that works out.
Mate,
stumbled through that bit there, didn't I?
Speech therapy's worth every cent for you, mate. Keep it up. Hey, wouldn't it be great if all the councils around Australia were like Brisbane, just one council you had to deal with?
Well, yes and no.
You do a development over here, and then you go 2 suburbs away in Melbourne, and you've got a totally different council to work with. But anyway, I'm sure there's
pros and cons.
Plenty of our listeners who've had some frustrations with the Brisbane City Council. Okay, thank you for the question. Next one for me is from Joe B. And his email address is the next Adam Gilchrist @ and I won't carry on, but clearly he's a cricketer.
It sounds like he is a bit of a cricketer, but that's a long time ago, so he's probably had that address for a while.
We need Joe to let us know if he is the next Adam Gilchrist to see how it's going. My name is Joey. I'm 26. I'm an aspiring property investor. I recently bought my first property. In brackets, not sure if I would have bought this particular one if I'd discovered your podcast earlier, but oh well. And I'm a keen follower of your videos, your podcasts, and now your book. Thank you for that, Joey. I've actually just finished reading your book about 30 minutes ago, and I have to say I really enjoyed it, particularly chapters 9 and 10 on investment strategies and case studies. I found it very easy to follow and understand, though I do admit some of the concepts are here on the podcast. Well, we've tried to be transparent, haven't we?
And we'll unpack more and more of those over the journey.
We talked about money smarts before. We're going to do a whole podcast on money smarts.
Yeah.
Number one question or subsection. I noticed that in the case studies, the loans were always interest only, which is fine, and I understand why it's like that. But is it possible to have interest only repayments over the course of the entire loan? What a great question. Surely at some point, the bank wants principal paid back. Over to you, mate.
Well, where do I start? Okay, so we use very, very, very sophisticated cash flow modelling in our business. Our simulator software has been purposely built to handle multiple property portfolios. Okay, as part of that, what is actually happening is the income that we're receiving is going into an offset account, and we fill up offset buckets. We just basically say, if you imagine you have a loan bucket and what sits beside that is an offset bucket. So as the loan is interest only, we're basically building up that offset bucket. Now, why do we do that? A couple of reasons. If we've got principal and interest, the principal component is slowing down our surplus cash flow. So when we've got that slowdown, it means we could miss out on potentially buying further properties, number one. And coming back to the question at hand is, in terms of, yes, the banks would normally say interest only for 5 years, okay? And then at the anniversary of that interest only period, are they going to ask you to then move to principal and interest? Well, the reality is this. If you've got $100,000 sitting in an offset account against, say, a $400,000 loan, and you go back to the bank and say, I'd like another 5 years interest only, and they can see that the offset in the last year has moved from $80,000 to $100,000, effectively, they're going to say, sure, I'll give you another 5 years. Like, from that point of view, that is prudent business on the bank's point of view. If APRA or someone say, well, at some point we'd like that loan paid off, the banks make money out of lending money. So in real terms, they're not going to necessarily say you have to pay that off. If you've been sitting on a 30-year loan term, interest only, and you've got $2,000 in the bank and it's been sitting at $2,000 and you're going from paycheck to mouth every week, then that's a different story. At some point, they're going to make sure what's going on here. We don't want to put you into mortgage stress. So there's clients that will quite comfortably be approved by banks to renew that. And some banks, even if they don't, are also going to say, or the broker is going to say, well, we can always refinance to a new bank and get a new interest-free period. So we do all of our lending here 5 years interest only, and that also sparks a review. So if the clients, even if they're not doing the property planning work that we do, if they're doing other things, we'll always be reviewing that client every 18 to 24 months anyway. So, it sort of washes itself out as part of the overall strategy.
Yeah, good point. I was speaking with Simon the other day, and he mentioned that because we've got diamond status here with one of the 4 pillars, he said we've got this cracking deal. So he rang up one of the clients and said, hey, I've worked out if you do this particular deal, it's going to save you about $8,000 in interest for the year for the lending that he had.
Yeah.
So that's an anecdote just to show how competitive the space is.
Yep.
So when the bank rings up and says, hey, even if they tried it on you, hey, it's 5 years, you've got to go P&I. It's amazing how quickly they ring you. Say, I'm going to change my business anyway, and they go, stand by, I'll call you back in half an hour.
Yeah.
Call you back in half an hour. Oh, we
can do it.
Imagine what competition can do. So really good question. Second part was, and I think it's really important for our listeners who have been, part of our community, who listen to what we do, and follow everything that we like to sort of preach, for lack of a better
articulate.
word. This leads me to my second question. During your case studies in the book he's talking about, do you factor in the fees of your services? This would have a noticeable impact on the overall purchasing power of the buyer. Yeah,
so for the book, we decided this was a DIY book. So, the book is about a start to finish. Someone who wants to, it's like a reference tool, effectively, is how we've written the book. So in this particular case, we didn't factor in those fees and charges, but in terms of the work we do for every client, we also give them that option in terms of what they look like. But the reality is that the vast majority, almost all of the clients who do our property wealth planning, then move into using our BA services.
And it's factored in by default. We'd love to think that we've captured 100% of the Australian market, but we haven't. So there's a huge do-it-yourself community in the Australian marketplace. So therefore, it just made sense to do those scenarios real time for those people. But the important point there is anyone who does it with our help, Joey, those fees are factored in. And a couple of other things, we're very conservative on interest rates. We don't put any depreciation in whatsoever, all those sorts of things. So hopefully that's helped you that. But in the book, that doesn't have BA fees included, but every single time we work with a client, we do factor those in. So there we go. Some really great questions. We got a lot of questions on Facebook. I'm looking at Ivis, who's had to trawl through those. So it's a great place for you to leave your questions on Facebook at The Property Couch, also on Instagram and on Twitter. But Facebook is definitely the best place for you to get your question sent through and answered quickly. Also, you can go to thepropertycouch.com.au and leave your query there. We've also had some really great reviews. That really helps us to spread the message. iTunes loves getting those reviews because it helps us with their algorithm to tell more people. So as we say each and every time, if you're enjoying the podcast, because we do it for free, one favour you could pay us back is just tell one person that you're enjoying it, and hopefully open up their world to the podcast as well. Now, Ben, we've got lots of people saying that they look forward to the sport banter and they look forward to the sign-off. And I think it's probably split the community because we've got lots of people who don't like the sport and don't.
Yeah, so I would have been happy to talk footy.
Yep.
And not so much on the sign-off, but I think it's going the other way, isn't it?
Yes, the more you're trying to back out of this, the more and more the listeners are saying, give it a go.
Yeah, give it a go.
But the one person said, can you sort of maybe sort of do Eastern European sort of sign-offs rather than everything having a French overtone sign-off? So there's a challenge for you.
Well, no, the answer to that is, my accents are my accents, but we'll give it a go. I've been handed the piece of paper, and so I've been, studying hard. I prep a lot for this particular section.
We prep for everything, don't we?
Oh, we do. We just prep. We're just the super preppers.
It's called winging it. Winging it.
We walk into a room, turn the microphone on, and talk.
See how we go.
Okay, Burmese.
All right.
And I don't know whether that B is silent or not. So, Bihani?
Yeah, no, it's French, Ivis. When you thought.
Bihani?
Yeah. To me, that's Bine.
Bine? Bine?
Yeah.
Anyone who's Burmese, please let us know how you correctly pronounce that. But
I know what we should do. You know, on Google you can do the translate. We probably should practice this.
Well, mate, I'll tell you. I'll just the translator. I'll hold it up to the microphone and say, "Here we go." Yeah, there we go.
Well, mate, we do advocate outsourcing, so that would be a very, very good showcasing outsourcing. So there you go, folks. We're signing off in Burmese, which is
Bahane.
Bahane. And until next week, Bahane.
Bahane.
See you, folks.